it by heart. 1791 got that spark. They want Waller to start right here, you better have heart. Scholar, you only see the eye on your $1. My woman don't wear no collar, bittersweet like smoking sour. Shows up and down your spinal tower. D-Day, high noon, this is the owner. Got the stem in hand, but this is the flower. Stuntman always navigates this world uncharted. All kings must die, justice finally finished where we had started. I'm sober, live by the gun, rulers getting red carded. This week in tyranny, R-O-G-O-Z becomes a target.
Hello everyone, and welcome to This Week in Tyranny, the most hardcore news show on earth. Today is February 9th, 2024. It's episode 62 of This Week in Tyranny. I am your host, Conrad Rogas, welcoming you to a feel-good episode. Yes, a feel-good version of This Week in Tyranny. Why not? It's about the only one we haven't done yet. We've talked about all sorts of depravity, government tyranny, all kinds of pain and suffering, and deterioration of rights. So what else could we have this week than more of the same, of course? So we'll have more of the same. We'll talk about what happened. But really, as I was going through the news this week, it really started to develop some sort of a character of, oh my god, it's the same thing all over again. It's just the same old stories. It's more or less the same thing happening over and over again. And yes, our life is slipping through our fingers, but I don't want to just be the guy who rattles off about this stuff and nothing ever changes. So this episode, with the spirit of that in mind, is really all about the news, but not just the news week to week, day to day, and running like on a treadmill chasing the news all week. All of this stuff is really old news. You guys know this stuff. And I don't want to become somebody who just talks about yesterday. I don't want to be the guy who rattles off about yesterday. I am somebody who talks about tomorrow. Because in the end, this show is all about action. It's about the action that we are going to take to make tomorrow different from yesterday. We know about yesterday. We know that the history of humanity is slavery. We know about all this stuff that happened, and for the past 62 weeks, I've done a good job of explaining to some of the people who watch my show, like my close friends and family, that they've told me that I've opened their eyes, that I've showed them that really the history of humanity has been like this. It's been tyranny. So this is good. We're having an impact to some degree. This is good. But all this new stuff, I want to present some personal ideas and like my personal response, my personal reactions to all this news stuff. And we're going to turn news into old news because, like I said, all this stuff is old news. So we'll talk about what happened, but really this show's about how to transcend the news cycle, get past it, and deal with the torrent of propaganda. That's what it is. And speaking of torrents, our first story, we have an atmospheric river, so-called atmospheric river. It killed 9 people in California. We're talking about really heavy rain and flooding. They've called it biblical proportions of rain. More severe weather in California. Crazy. It seems crazy, right? But this is not out of nowhere. You look at the World Economic Forum risks report that I did a few episodes ago. Extreme weather events are number 1 in 2024. And that's what this year last year has been all about. Again, this is old news. This is broken record stuff. I already talked about this. So, very unfortunate. My condolences go out to the people who, of course, have lost their lives, due to this flooding. Now, in response to the extreme weather events, I've of course talked about geoengineering. I've talked about government being to blame for these extreme weather events and not some sort of human-driven climate change in the classical sense. But I'll just go past that, and I want to talk about solutions, like I said. What are the solutions here? What can we really do? Let's not lose our minds and pull our hair out about how bad everything is and how crazy it is. Let's just think about what we can do. The thing to keep in mind with stuff like this, the more and more we're going to have extreme weather events and really bad stuff that's going to kill a lot of people, Number one solution is just do not agree to any climate regulations under any circumstances. We have to draw a line, a movable line. It doesn't matter how bad it gets. Anything that is like a climate regulation that is about reducing emissions, reducing travel, all these restrictions, even particulate pollution, even pollution restrictions. If it's done in the name of climate, we just cannot agree, because this is like coercion being done against the people. I mean, they've chosen this as the medium to really get a new layer of control, a new layer, a new aspect of totalitarian grip on the lives of the people is done through climate now. So anything that's done in the name of climate has got to get struck down. Now, can we definitively prove that government action like geoengineering is causing these kinds of events, is causing this stuff in California? I can't. I can't actually prove that geoengineering is at fault for this, even though we can look at the patterns. Peggy Hall, you should check her work out, has just put out a new article and video today that talks about this, talks about these. She actually talks about it in Florida, about stationary currents, stationary weather patterns. I talked about the bomb cyclone that was all across the country. So this geoengineering stuff is out there, but my point is I can't really 100% claim that that's government action, right? So I'm not going to claim that, but I can definitively say that it is obviously in the interest of the global power influencers of the world to have extreme weather, so that they can justify these, as the new contemporary versions of the new 9/11s, the new Sandy Hooks, to get their regulations passed, to get their rules in, and to get the grip on people's lives through government controls. That's WEF Risks Report. I've talked about that, and that's case closed right there, right? As long as there's the motive for something, there's a strong motive, you don't have to catch somebody red-handed. You can look at circumstantial evidence and say, hey, what's going on here? And until we can figure out what's going on with this geoengineering stuff, any sort of stuff that tries to get passed through at 11:59 on New Year's Eve, we've got to strike stuff like this down. So, but that's not even my creative solution. Here's my creative solutions, right? We need to sound the alarm about extreme weather. We need to toughen each other up. We need to focus on preparedness. And not just us, we should reach out to the people in California. We need to reach out to the people in California dealing with this and get them in touch with the survivalist, with the preparedness-oriented, groups, the freedom-oriented groups that are all about preparing for a crisis, for the power grid shutting down, for food shortages, right? We've got a lot of this stuff in the freedom community, right? In the natural law, freedom, anti-globalism community. The people in California, they don't have that. I'm saying, in the general sense, the people over there dealing with the severe weather. We can use this as an opportunity to reach out to them, right? We connect with these people that we otherwise would not have connected with. Because them and us, we're starting to have something in common. We're all starting to no longer feel safe in our homes, no longer feel safe in our neighborhoods and states, in the primal weather sense, that we don't know if our house is going to be standing tomorrow, if we're going to be able to commute to work. We're starting to see that also the emergency protocols and infrastructures in place that are supposed to help in emergencies, the assistance, all the help, all the, National Guard, all this stuff, it's apparent that it's going to fail when it matters most. So this gives us the opportunity to reach out to these people in a fragile time, and otherwise they don't listen to us. They think we're Trump supporters, so the people over there, they don't listen to us, but this is the opportunity to reach out to them. So that's my creative solution number one. Now for story number two, news came out that a U.S. drone strike in Baghdad killed at least one leader of an Iran-backed militia on Wednesday, the Pentagon said. Leader of an Iran-backed militia, which is funny, because the way the U.S. government talks is the same way that the Israel government talks about what they're doing in Gaza. See, keep in mind that when Israel bombs a hospital in Gaza or a UN shelter, this is the same kind of title they come up with. They say it was a Hamas-backed militia. Of course, you can't prove that, right? How are you going to prove that is an Iran-backed militia? Of course, this is the framing. It is already made. I mean, this is war propaganda. Again, I don't want to waste my time on the specifics that I've said 1,000 times. But basically, this is your war propaganda. This is the stuff you're getting again and again. Who believes this anymore? I don't think too many people do. I think we've become so oversaturated with war, that most people are seeing that, the endless aid to Ukraine, the endless aid to Israel or Taiwan or whoever happens to be at war, and the constant war propaganda, constantly sending weapons, sending money to other places. Now the Pentagon is releasing this news that a strike killed one of their leaders. Who knows if there even was an airstrike, if it even killed one of their leaders. We don't actually know this. This is just war propaganda. But they're giving us this, and I don't know who actually believes that it makes sense for Americans to be sending soldiers and war technology over to all these different countries. I think people are seeing that the real problem is back at home. I think people are seeing that, you got to focus on what there's a shortage of today, or you can't get your insurance to pay for your parents' operation, but you can get all this money to send overseas. And I think the war imperialist patriotism of years ago has really numbed. It has really decreased in America. So I don't know who really believes this stuff, but either way, here's my crazy solution, my creative crazy solution to more war propaganda, right? Just don't watch the Super Bowl. And it does matter because the NFL is all partnered up with the military. This is when they promote the military to us. So on one hand, I say, well, who really is believing this stuff? Who is really supporting the military doing all these interventions in third world countries? It seems like nobody really is, but then you go watch the Super Bowl and, the jets are flying by, the Star Spangled Banner plays, and that has an effect. I mean, somebody's supporting this stuff, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't get away with it. But the reason I say don't watch the Super Bowl is because that way you don't support the military. Because the last real war veterans of this country, of the United States, are the ones who fought in World War II. That was a real war. Every war since then has been just meddling in the affairs of countries. That's ultimately inconsequential, and there's no moral justification for it. Vietnam, Korea, Iraq, Afghanistan, and now Iran. People don't really think about this stuff. Like, why are people going there? But then you have all the military waving to the camera from all these military bases around the world. They're stationed abroad, and that's who you see before, during, and after the football game. And those guys out there, they're not heroes. They're operating weapons of war in other countries, uninvited, for various interests. Not just financial, various global interests, none of them American interests. Those guys out there are not battling real threats. They are battling real terrorists, real war criminals, much of the time they are. But none of them are a threat to the world at large, and definitely they're not a threat to Americans. There is no threat to America other than the American government, you know, and the dumbass American people. But hey, this is a feel-good episode. I'm going to not call people trash and dumbasses. I'm just going to talk about some solutions. So those guys, not a threat. Those guys in Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, not a threat. Not a threat at all. What is a threat to Americans is military spending, because that's your money. The threat is the people taking your money. What is a threat to Americans? Actually, it is the global perception of America as this kind of global military watchdog of the world. That's a big deal. That's bad for Americans, because there's this perception throughout the whole world that America is this military bully. And if that is the perception, then they have no reason to send you good products from other nations. They have no reason to treat you with respect. They have no reason not to send the worst of their people through your borders, right? All this stuff matters. It's part of the whole global web. So all I'm saying is, if enough people don't watch the Super Bowl, that would send a message that we no longer believe in the entertainment distractions and the government propaganda. And while that would be nice, I don't even view it as an impactful solution. So here's an actual impactful solution. And I seriously mean this. I really think this is a really good solution. The solution is to reach out to members of the military and, tell them that their superiors are failing them and the oath they took and all this stuff. A lot of military members know this. And you start with the commander-in-chief, because that's the best. That's the best way in, because a lot of the, today's military, they don't like the commander-in-chief. It's not just the people that don't like Joe Biden. They don't like Joe Biden either. There's a huge portion of the military now that likes and respects Donald Trump, and really what the Trump era military stood for. It's a lot that has to do with the symbolism, with the emotions, with the psychology. These are human beings at the end of the day, right? They're simple people. The Trump era military seemed like it was proud, and now it seems like old and senile, and that's all it is. So what we need to do is reach out to them and get through to them first on that real shallow surface level. And the point is to get them to go through the motions. Go through the motions. Now, I'm fully aware that the long-term ultimate solution for the military is to get people to quit the military, quit the police, quit the military for moral reasons. Of course, I get that. But for so many reasons, the vast majority of them won't ever do that. And this will take a longer time, right? This is an intermediate but long-term solution that I'm proposing here. It's not the ideal one, but this will get stuff done. So what I'm proposing is, the next best thing to them quitting is to get them to do a shitty job. Let's get the military to do a real shitty job at their job. Okay? And that's arguably even better. And it would be cosmic justice. Because if this president and his administration is the one giving the orders, and that's how it is, then they should have a military of equivalent competence carrying out their orders, right? It only makes sense. The military should be as good as the president, right? Not that it matters who the president is, but in the grand scheme of things, hey, they should match, The hand needs to fit the glove. So what I'm saying is, do enough just to keep your job. Don't do it for honor of America. Don't do it for patriotism, because it no longer exists in the U.S. military. Look what you guys are doing. Look where you're going. This isn't. This is gone. This is, America's prestige and honor is the honor of the last century and really 2 centuries ago. So make this hijacked, deep state, globalist version of the United States of America, let's make it much less effective at enforcing their shady dealings in remote parts of the world. Yeah? because many people in the military understand the globalism and war machine aspect to some degree, right? Many are waking up to some degree. So why not continue to collect the government check, the government salary, continue to stay in the loop on classified information and what's going on in other parts of the world? This is useful, right? Still be in that state apparatus, but continue to be ready and stand up when it's time to stand up. That will make that is a very good use of the military, a very effective solution. That's a great solution that you yourself can implement in person with people you know that are involved in the armed forces. And this is serious stuff. I hope you can realize that by me proposing that as a solution, I actually risk being charged with sedition and treason. But as I've said before, sedition and treason are bullshit charges. They're not real. Because I'm not at war, I don't swear any allegiance or loyalty to any nation or any armed forces. Fuck them. And I am someone who considers myself a real proud American, a patriot, but not them. That's not them. And I'm not promoting any sabotage. I'm not saying sabotage. I don't want to sabotage anybody. The government has sabotaged itself. They've sabotaged itself. They've betrayed you. They've betrayed the armed forces. And they should get back the service that they deserved. That's all I want, is for people to get the service they deserve. So there's my solution. Now, a late addition to this episode, the final story is yesterday, on Thursday, the Senate advanced a $95 billion budget bill, $95 billion, which includes foreign aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. So, it's like a continuation of the last story. People are really starting to get fed up with this foreign aid, and it is kind of ridiculous, right? We can't get stuff done here. We've got stuff getting cut, budget cuts, inflation, but then, boom, send $100 billion out to other countries for their affairs. Same old, nothing new here. This has been happening, but how to solve this? What is my solution here? Boycotts aren't fun solutions, but ultimately, don't financially support companies that get federal subsidies. If you're not going to be someone who refuses to pay taxes like me, at least don't financially support these companies who are getting government kickbacks, which is what, there are so many examples, but like cable companies, right? The cable companies are getting money from government. These big processed meat companies, buy organic and natural food. Don't buy processed meat. Don't buy factory farmed meat. Nike got a $2 billion subsidy in 2012. So don't buy Nike. Anything that you don't need to function in the world, don't support them with your money. You got to buy things like Amazon is one, and I use Amazon all the time. You got to buy things that allow you to produce. You got to buy things that you need to maintain whatever way of life that you've chosen for yourself. Buy things that allow you to produce. You have to. But it's so that over time your productive capacity can increase, and then your consumer spending can decrease. That's the name of the game here, because if government is not getting as much money from people, then they won't feel as emboldened to go throw $100 billion of it to other parts of the world. So that's the solution to that. But to conclude this episode, we're going to keep it nice and short and sweet. The ultimate solution is, my ultimate message is, don't waste time on the news. Don't waste too much time on this stuff. We have to wake people up, and I do try to do that. We have to tell them about what's really going on. And yes, we have to talk about what's really going on. But talking about the news specifically, and talking about historical events specifically, a lot of this is a waste of time. The solution lies in the real world. So you go spend time with human beings in real life. This is where true value is. And at the end of the day, reach out to a content creator and support them. Reach out to somebody like me that you like. Support them. And if you are a content creator, then you reach out to somebody who's trying to become a content creator, trying to become somebody who actually gets real change done, not just a content creator like unboxing videos and like and subscribe. I'm talking about somebody who's trying to change things. Someone who's trying to become that. Reach out to them and support them. And that's what it's all about. These are our solutions. Intense personal relationships, building these networks between ourselves, really focusing on investing in our, really planting the seeds for the flowers of tomorrow to bloom. This is what we need to do. We need to invest in each other. We need to not invest so much of our time in false paradigms, in news stories that ultimately are just there to rob you, of your time, of your attention. And don't support these fake systems. Let's invest in some real systems. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this feel-good edition of This Week in Tyranny. Because why? They're already taking our money and everything else. Why would they take your happiness and your sanity and your enjoyment with your loved ones? This is still our world. It's not their world. It's their government, it's their money system and all that. That's not their world, though. It's our world. So let's keep our spirits high. Thank you very much. And I'll see you next week on This Week in Tyranny.
Rappers talk too much shit, can't back it up with lyrics.